Dawn breaks over an open field. The light is still low, the air cool, and most nocturnal hunters are already retreating into cover. But perched on a branch, motionless and alert, a small owl watches the ground below. It does not wait for darkness. It does not vanish into the trees. Instead, it drops silently into the grass, hunting in full daylight. When we think of owls, we tend to imagine a single kind of predator: nocturnal, forest-dwelling, hidden from view. Creatures of darkness, defined as much by when they hunt as by how. But that picture is incomplete. Across much of the world, a quiet group of owls has taken a different path. They hunt by day as readily as by night. They spend time on the ground. Some live among farms, towns, and even cities, adapting not to wilderness, but to people. These are the owls belonging to the genus Athene. If you'd like to learn more, check out the document in the description with research papers and image credits. Before we can understand what makes Athene unusual, it helps to establish what most owls have in common. Owls belong to the order Strigiformes, predators shaped less by speed or strength than by sensory precision. Their forward-facing eyes provide excellent binocular vision, but at a cost. Owl eyes are so large and so tightly packed into the skull that there is simply no room for the muscles needed to move them. Instead of shifting their gaze, owls move their entire head, a compromise that trades eye mobility for exceptional sight. Hearing is just as specialized. A broad facial disc acts like a satellite dish, funneling sound toward the ears. In many species, those ears are positioned asymmetrically, allowing an owl to pinpoint prey in complete darkness using sound alone. Even flight has been reshaped around stealth. The leading edges of an owl's wings are fringed, breaking up airflow as the bird flies. Velvety feathers absorb what noise remains. Together, these adaptations allow owls to approach prey in near silence, an advantage that matters most when hunting at close range. For most species, this sensory toolkit is paired with a familiar lifestyle: nocturnal or crepuscular activity, forested habitats, and a reliance on elevated perches from which to strike unseen. This is the owl blueprint: refined, conservative, and remarkably consistent across continents. Athene fits comfortably within it. These are unmistakably owls, sharing the same anatomy, the same sensory specializations, and the same basic body plan. But where many owls apply that toolkit almost exclusively in darkness and cover, Athene is far less restrictive. Compared to most of their relatives, Athene species are more tolerant of daylight, more willing to hunt from the ground, and far more likely to occupy open or human-modified landscapes. They have not abandoned the owl design. They have simply stretched the rules governing how, where, and when it can be used. And it's from that flexibility that the diversity of this genus emerges. As someone who enjoys classical history as much as zoology, I greatly appreciate the reference of this genus name. Athene derives from the Greek goddess Athena, goddess of wisdom, warfare, and crafting. Her symbol was the owl, and, more specifically, the little owl, a species that belongs to this genus. Across the world, there are 9 recognized species of Athene, each occupying slightly different habitats and displaying unique behaviors. Some, like the little owl, the spotted owlet, and the burrowing owl, are well studied and serve as anchors for understanding the genus. Others, including forest specialists and isolated island species, are far less familiar, but are just as important for revealing how flexible and diverse Athene really is. What unites them all is flexibility. Whether hunting in daylight or at night, on the ground or in trees, alone or near people, these owls make the same basic owl toolkit work in a variety of environments. It is this adaptability that has allowed Athene to become one of the most versatile groups of small owls in the world. The little owl, Athene noctua, is the heart of the genus. Small, unassuming, yet remarkably adaptable. Across temperate Europe, parts of Asia and North Africa, this species inhabits open farmland, open woodland, and even human settlements, taking full advantage of edges and open spaces. It is neither a creature of deep forest nor of total wilderness. Instead, it thrives when the landscape is varied and food is accessible. Despite its diminutive size, the little owl is a formidable hunter. It feeds on insects, small mammals, amphibians, and occasionally reptiles, adjusting its diet to seasonal availability. Its long legs and upright posture allow it to move on the ground with surprising agility, hopping or walking as it surveys for prey, while still capable of swift flight when needed. Behaviorally, the little owl is equally flexible. While largely nocturnal, it frequently emerges in daylight, particularly in areas where human activity reduces predation risk. Its calls are sharp and distinctive, a familiar sound on quiet farmland evenings. They are also fiercely territorial, with pairs defending their hunting grounds year-round, and often nesting in cavities in trees, cliffs, or even old buildings. This flexibility makes them the only species in this genus to be deliberately introduced to areas outside of its native range. In the early 20th century, European settlers released little owls into New Zealand's South Island, where the species quickly established itself. The reason for this introduction was to control agricultural pests, especially small birds like sparrows and finches. Importantly, these introductions did not have the effects people expected. Rather than targeting pest birds, little owls feed primarily on invertebrates, only occasionally taking small vertebrates. This meant they were largely ineffective as a form of biological control. But it also means they are not considered a pest in New Zealand today, as they are not a serious threat to native wildlife. Their presence instead serves as a reminder of how poorly understood ecological relationships often were during the era of widespread species introductions, and how even adaptable predators do not always behave as intended when moved into new environments. What makes the little owl particularly fascinating is how it exemplifies the genus Athene, a small generalist owl that can exploit multiple habitats, hunt with both patience and aggression, and coexist alongside humans without losing its predatory edge. It is the species that gave the genus its name, and in many ways it sets the template for the diversity we see in Athene today. If the little owl is the emblematic Athene of temperate Eurasia, the spotted owlet, Athene brama, is its tropical cousin, thriving in the forests, farmland, and villages of South and Southeast Asia. These two species are closely related, so closely in fact that they used to be considered the same species. Slightly smaller than the little owl, the spotted owlet carries the same upright posture and generalist predatory toolkit, but its lifestyle shows a few notable differences. Unlike the relatively solitary little owl, spotted owlets are often seen in small family groups, calling to each other with sharp, repetitive trills that carry through the warm daytime air. They are highly adaptable to human presence, nesting in tree cavities, abandoned buildings, and even temple walls. Their diet is similarly flexible, including insects, small lizards, and rodents. But in these densely populated habitats, they also exploit food opportunities created by people, such as scraps near homes or farms. Activity is mostly diurnal, with peak hunting during daylight hours, a contrast to many owls even within Athene that remain partially nocturnal. Despite their small size, these owlets are aggressive defenders of territory, mobbing intruders or larger birds that approach their nests. The spotted owlet exemplifies another side of the genus's versatility: social tolerance, willingness to live alongside humans, and success in tropical environments. Where the little owl sets the template for a flexible small owl in temperate regions, the spotted owlet shows how Athene can thrive in heat, humidity, and human-modified landscapes. A close cousin, yet uniquely adapted to its own niche. The forest owlet, Athene blewetti, is one of the rarest and least understood owls in the world. It was placed in a different genus until a genetic study in 2018 clarified its true relationships. Endemic to central India, it is restricted to a small area of deciduous forest, and was once feared extinct, having gone unrecorded for over 80 years, before a small number of sightings in the 1990s confirmed its survival. Very little is known about its behavior, diet, or breeding habits. Museum specimens and brief field observations suggest it is small, with cryptic brown and white plumage that blends seamlessly into the forest understory. It appears to be extremely elusive, rarely vocal, and largely nocturnal. Conservation efforts are ongoing, focused on protecting its tiny forest habitat from logging and agriculture. In short, the forest owlet is a reminder of how many mysteries remain in the natural world, a species glimpsed only occasionally, yet emblematic of the hidden diversity within Athene. If the little owl and spotted owlet show Athene's flexibility in trees and farmland, the burrowing owl, Athene cunicularia, takes that versatility underground, quite literally. Found across the open landscapes of North and South America, from grasslands and deserts to agricultural fields, this small owl has traded branches for burrows, living almost entirely beneath the soil. Burrowing owls rarely dig their own homes. Instead, they rely on the abandoned burrows of mammals like prairie dogs, ground squirrels, and armadillos, sometimes lining the floors with grass or feathers for comfort. These burrows are more than a nest. They are a refuge from predators, a place to roost during the day, and a stage for complex social interactions. Social behavior in burrowing owls is remarkable. Unlike the largely solitary little owl, or the small family groups of the spotted owlet, burrowing owls may nest in loose colonies, with several pairs keeping watch over a cluster of burrows. When a predator approaches, adults communicate with a combination of sharp calls, wing flutters, head bobs, and tail flicks. Silent signals that carry across the open plains. Even juveniles join in the vigilance, learning the cues that could save their lives. Hunting is just as unusual. Burrowing owls are largely diurnal, stalking insects, small mammals, and reptiles in the full glare of daylight. They may walk or run across the ground, hover briefly over prey, or probe burrows with a foot to flush hidden animals. Their diet shifts with the seasons. Summer brings insects like grasshoppers, while winter relies more on rodents and lizards. In open landscapes where cover is scarce, this combination of long legs, sharp eyesight, and fearless curiosity makes them surprisingly effective predators. Burrowing owls are also opportunists in human-modified landscapes. Fields, pastures, roadsides, and even airport runways can provide abundant prey. They have adapted to exploit these environments while retaining the same burrowing, diurnal, and social behaviors that distinguish them from their tree-bound cousins. In short, the burrowing owl is a living demonstration of Athene's adaptability taken to an extreme. Ground-dwelling, diurnal, colonial, and fearless, it thrives in places few other owls would dare to hunt. It is the genus's ecological outlier, showing just how far evolution can stretch the basic owl blueprint while keeping the core Athene toolkit intact. The white-browed owl, Athene supercilliaris, is one of the more mysterious members of Athene, found only on the island of Madagascar. Endemic to this isolated landscape, it inhabits dry forests, woodland edges, and secondary growth, often at low elevations. Its bold white feathers above the eyes give it a distinct appearance among small owls, while its cryptic brown and buff plumage helps it blend seamlessly into the forest understory. Little is known about its behavior or breeding. It is largely nocturnal, hunting insects, small lizards, and rodents from low perches, and possibly taking prey on the wing. Nesting habits remain poorly documented, but clutches appear to consist of 3 to 5 eggs, laid in concealed sites on or near the ground. The presence of this owl in Madagascar reflects the island's long history of isolation and overwater colonization. Like the forest owlet in India, the white-browed owl is a reminder that even within a familiar genus, there are species that remain largely unseen, their lives unfolding quietly in remote habitats. Remarkably, despite living worlds apart, the burrowing owl of the Americas and the white-browed owl of Madagascar are close relatives. One prowls open grasslands and deserts by day, digging burrows and hunting insects and rodents, while the other slips silently through Madagascan forests at night, preying on lizards and small mammals. Their shared ancestry highlights the flexibility of the Athene blueprint, a small, adaptable owl capable of thriving in drastically different habitats. Beyond these extremes, the genus also includes a hidden radiation on the Solomon Islands, where a handful of species have evolved in isolation, adding yet another unique chapter to Athene's story. In the remote forests of the Solomon Islands, a very small group of Athene species has taken a very different evolutionary path. The West Solomon's owl, Guadalcanal owl, Melita owl, and Makira owl are each confined to a single island, evolving in isolation from both their continental cousins and from one another. Isolation has been the defining force in their evolution. Separated by deep ocean channels and rugged terrain, these islands have acted as natural evolutionary laboratories, where even short-distance dispersal is effectively impossible. Until recently, these owls were classified in the genus Ninox, largely due to their Australasian distribution and general appearance. Genetic studies have now placed them firmly within Athene, revealing them as a hidden branch of this adaptable genus, one whose divergence was driven not by dramatic ecological shifts, but by long-term geographic isolation. Like other Athene, they are small, agile, and generalist predators, feeding on insects, lizards, and small mammals. But island life has shaped them in subtle and important ways. Some appear better adapted for hunting within dense understory rather than open ground, while others may rely more heavily on vocal communication to maintain territories and locate mates in thick forests where visibility is limited. Unlike their mainland relatives, these owls cannot shift ranges in response to environmental change. Their entire world is confined to a single island, and in some cases, to a narrow band of remaining forest. What makes these species particularly striking is how little we still know about them. Population sizes are uncertain, behavioral observations are rare, and much of their ecology has been inferred from brief surveys rather than long-term study. Limited ranges and small populations make these owls inherently vulnerable, but they also make them powerful examples of how isolation alone can shape evolutionary outcomes within a familiar lineage. The Solomon Islands owls illustrate a recurring theme in Athene. Even a small, adaptable owl can diversify into forms perfectly suited to very different environments. Where species like the little owl succeed through flexibility across vast landscapes, these island owls persist through fine-tuned adaptations to a single place. In a genus defined by adaptability, the Solomon Island species reveal its other side, where isolation transforms versatility into fragility, and evolution proceeds along a far narrower path. We've talked a lot about how the owls in Athene are largely generalists. That does come with a caveat. The owls in Athene that we know about are generalists. The little owl, the spotted owlet, and even the burrowing owl, despite its more specialized lifestyle. These species are adaptable, able to exploit farmland, villages, and secondary forests, and as a result, they're generally considered least concern on the IUCN Red List. Their flexibility allows them to cope with changes in the landscape and survive in habitats that would challenge more specialized species. But not all members of the genus are so resilient. Species with highly restricted ranges or specialized habitats face far greater risks. The forest owlet of central India, for example, was feared extinct for the better part of a century, and even today remains endangered, confined to small, fragmented patches of deciduous forest. Similarly, the Solomon Islands owls, each restricted to a single island, live in limited forested habitats and are vulnerable to natural disasters alongside deforestation and habitat degradation. 2 of these 4 species are listed as vulnerable, while a third is near threatened, and all are believed to be decreasing in population size. Isolation, small population size, and narrow ecological niches make these species highly sensitive to even modest environmental changes. Even the generalists are not entirely safe. The burrowing owl, globally classified as least concern, has suffered dramatic declines in parts of North America where grasslands shrink and burrowing mammals disappear. Pesticides, persecution, and habitat modification all add pressure, showing that flexibility can buffer against risk, but not eliminate it. Taken together, the conservation story of Athene highlights a simple truth. Ecological flexibility allows some species to thrive, even as landscapes change. But isolation, specialization, and small populations can make others highly vulnerable. Protecting these owls is about more than preserving habitats. It is about understanding the limits of adaptability and the delicate balance that allows these remarkable birds to survive in a changing world. From village ruins to open farmland to island forests and underground burrows, the owls of Athene show how flexible a single lineage can be. In some species, that flexibility has meant learning to live alongside people, hunting by day as readily as by night, and thriving in landscapes that few other owls can tolerate. In others, it has produced forms shaped by isolation, narrow habitats, and evolutionary paths taken far from the genus's temperate origins. Yet, this adaptability has limits. Generalist owls may persist across changing landscapes, but species confined to small forests or single islands walk a far narrower line. In Athene, survival is not defined by one strategy, but by a balance between flexibility and constraint, a reminder that even within a single genus, evolution can produce both resilience and fragility, side by side. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the owls of Athene. If this video sparked your curiosity, don't let it stop here. Share it, talk about it, and keep learning. There's still so much to discover about the world's rare and remarkable species. And the more we understand, the better our chances of protecting them. Thanks for watching.